مهمة جدا عن أحد أهم المهارات في تعلم أي لغة أجنبية، مهارة القراءة، لكن بطريقة مهمة جدا، أو سننظر لها من جانب آخر لم تنظروا إليه من قبل. لن أتكلم أكثر عن موضوع المحاضرة وعن ما ستقدمه لنا هذه المحاضرة. سأترك دكتورنا القدير الذي أكرمنا بقبول الدعوة يتحدث إليكم مباشرة، فأتمنى لكم محاضرة جيدة وتعلم وفير بإذن الله تعالى. شكرا لك دكتور، وتفضل معنا.
Thank you so much. And first, I would like to thank everyone and for allowing me to be part of this community. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be part of it. And this is really amazing community. Sadly, I don't know if I can, if we are going to talk with you, it's like I don't like a one-way communication. I usually love to talk with the audience and at the same time I hear my feedback, and this is something I really do appreciate. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Boukhshbة Hisham. I am an associate professor at Jelfa University, Algeria. And for these years, I have been teaching methodology, reading, especially reading, sociolinguistics. My major is sociolinguistics, so I really love sociolinguistics and I love to play with language. I love to know how we use language to communicate, especially between the words, not just the language. So this is something that I do like about the language. Now, of course, today I'm going to talk about reading skill, and I would love to start the same way I start with my course with my students. Usually, when I first meet my students the first time, I ask this very simple question. I tell them that, okay, I'm supposed to teach you reading. And their reaction usually is like, come on, sir, it's like reading, really? It's like it's so easy. I mean, we have been reading for so many years, and now at university, we're supposed to you teach us reading. So they think it's kind of a waste, really. It is really kind of a waste of their time. And I usually, what I do, I just give them a small test. I said, do you know how to read? They tell me, yes, we do. Okay, then I choose only one of my books and hand them one of my books. I said, can you read? And the moment they start reading, they start making all these kind of spelling mistakes or just problems. So what's the problem? Reading seems so easy, but the moment you start to read, you kind of make all sorts of issues. So we need to change the way of reading. And of course, maybe you have read what I propose as the content of this, how can I say it, seminar. I talked about the mechanical aspect of reading, and of course, we talked about the cognitive aspect of reading. And this is something that we are going to delve in, and we talk about it really in detail. So let's start first why reading is difficult. So basically, when I talk about reading, I will go back to linguistics and let's talk about the structure of the language itself. So, what's the first aspect in language? It's usually the sound. So, sounds is going to take us to phonetics. So, the first obstacle, especially since we are not native speakers, is the right pronunciation of words. So, we really need to be very careful when we pronounce words, respecting all the phonetic transcription, etc., etc. So, that's usually the first obstacle. Okay, but still, here at this level is just what we call the mechanical aspect of language, because in the mechanical aspect, what we do, we mechanically decode words. We see a word written and we decode it, we just pronounce it. What we do in pronounce it, we give it a sound, that is first. And all of a sudden, after the sound, what happened, I think maybe you are familiar with linguistics, we go to the second stage, which is phonology. And phonology, we have the phoneme. The phoneme is a bit different than the sound, because a sound is kind of cut off from the meaning. A sound is just a sound. But the moment a sound has a meaning, it goes to the domain of phonology, and we will have what you call phonemic awareness. We know that that sound has a meaning. Now, once all these sounds are combined, they are going to be combined into a word. And here we have the next problem, which is vocabulary. Okay, so we start first is first we need to decode. That's usually the easy part. And in decoding, we move from the sound to a word. The moment we know the meaning of the word, that's something, okay, that's accomplishment, really. That's accomplishment when we know the meaning of the word. So our reading is going to be quite easy. But the problem here, and here is the problem, and this is what we neglect the most. Our minds, in if we talk to a psychologist, they will tell you that our minds, they love to make things easier. W- Really, the way our minds is like a processor, always looking for the easiest route to fix a problem. Now, when you read a word, what happens usually, your mind automatically try to guess what's the next word. And what happened most of the time is first your mind try to determine what's the next word. Either you are going to train your eyes to see the next word, because when you're reading you are going to train your eyes to see the next word, and this is what's supposed to happen. Or sometimes, maybe if you teach young learners, sometimes what they do, their minds automatically fills the next word. I give you just an example. If you teach young learners and you teach them, for example, I am a pupil, I am a pupil, you always this, I am a pupil, I'm working. And for example, you want to teach them that I travel, they will say automatically, I am traveled. Even if they are reading it from a text, they will say, I am traveling. And so the am auxiliary there is not there, but their mind is going to fill it. This is something happening reading it. This is part of the cognitive process. And sadly, most of the time, we don't control these cognitive processes. And of course, always leads to major problems. So the next, after we recognize a word, because what happened when we recognize a word, this is also so important about reading, we tend to activate the vocabulary we have in our mind. Most of the vocabulary we have in our minds are simply passive vocabulary. And passive vocabulary, by the way, the difference between passive and active vocabulary, when you speak, most what you can use only the active vocabulary. Most of the time, a word you know it, but it's not there the moment you want to speak. So what happens is only you remember it if someone tells you about it. So these words are going to be activated, and of course this is another benefit of reading. But still, it is a problem also, because when we read, we have to quickly mobilize all the words we know. And we come to it. It's also one of the benefits why I have talked about the benefit in terms of the neural pathways and creating neural pathways when it comes to reading. And this is something also so important. Now, we moved from the sound, we moved to a phoneme, and to the phoneme we move to a word. After the word, what we have, we go to a sentence. So in a sentence is going to take us to syntax, and it's going to take us to grammar. And all these are our minds are supposed to process it quickly. When you read, and here is, you should remember this, the difference between reading mechanically and reading using really your brain, thinking about it seriously. What happens when you read mechanically, you are just decoding. So you see a word, you read it, and you read it, and you the next one, the next one, the next one. So so you're not touching anything in the cognitive side of it. But if we treat, or if we train our learners, and this is the gist of our meeting today, we need to train our learners to use their brains really when they read. They have to think about everything they're doing. First, the moment or the way they recognize a sound, and after they recognize a sound, the way they recognize that the sound has a purpose, so it is a phoneme. And after the group of sound, they form a word, and what word comes after it, and why that word is there, why it's not another word. And they have to understand why these words are linked together, what kind of tense is used for the verb, why the sentence, it is a sentence like this, what the construction of the sentence. The moment you start thinking about this, you are in the same time learning. And trust me, it's going to help. One of the tricks that I use in my class when I teach reading, when they read the sentence, I tell my students, for example, why that word has an S, for example, we have an ing there, why we have a present simple, why not a past simple. These seem like really from grammar, but no, it's part of your reading. Okay, so once we have a word, we said we have a word, we have a sentence. Now, what we need something more than that. So we moved because the moment you have sentences, we move to semantics. That's the meaning of the word themselves. After semantics, the logical aspect we are going to talk about is pragmatics. It's the meaning of the whole sentence. So why that sentence? What's the meaning of the sentence? And why that sentence itself is built like this? Okay, so this is also important. Now, after the sentence, what happened, you need also, by the way, I'll just stop a moment. When we talk about the meaning, and the meaning by itself, when it comes to sentences, we are here on the part of comprehension. And this is usually also a big obstacle when it comes to our learners, is simply they are going to read, and because they only use the mechanical side of the whole activity, simply don't understand anything. And I need you to reflect a moment on something that you do. Sometimes you read like 2 or 3 lines, and then you say, "Oh, I didn't understand anything," and you go back. Sometimes you didn't understand anything because you haven't read really. You just kind of decoded the words, and all of a sudden, after the third sentence, maybe the fourth sentence, you found something that is so interesting, and said you told yourself, "Okay, I haven't read anything," and you come back. And by the way, in today's world where we are really affected by social media, with the time span of like we cannot focus really more than 30 seconds. What happened? We simply cannot read. Maybe this is a personal issue I have these days. When someone sends me a message, I can't even read it. I don't know why. This is something that is really affecting our learners. Our learners now, they cannot read. It's simply they decode, but they don't understand. We did an experiment 5 years ago. It was part of an article to prove that people simply don't read. We put a sign on a door. We put a sign on a door, and it said the door is closed. The sign was big like this, was closed like this, and people, they were students in this case, they were trying to open the door. I mean, you would be amazed of how many students try to open the door by force, and they have not read the sign. Although the sign was so big like this, it was closed, they haven't read. And maybe you are familiar with social media. Sometimes when you see an article posted maybe in a shop, an online advertisement, and you see the price, and maybe you see the comments down there, you see people, what's the price? Come on. You could take only you could take 3 seconds to read the price, but they haven't read, and you find it easier for them to ask for the price and to get the answer rather than to read. And this is something also affecting our learners here in ways that we don't grasp for now, at least. Okay, so this is all problems, but there is one big issue, which has to do with the working memory. When we read, actually, for example, the way we read, let's say, for example, I'm reading a novel or I'm reading a short story. What happened in reading, when you read the first scene, let's say, for example, you are reading a story and you see, for example, you see in a far land or something like this, you start reading. What happened in your mind starts building an image, starts to build an image. For example, you read the first line, it's about a country, then the second line is about people, then the third line, the fourth line, this is that 1 page, 2 pages. So what happened here is your mind is building an image. Now, here we have a very limited capacity. It happens that sometimes that you're reading a short story and you are going to miss some details. You have read these details, but you missed the details. So what happened? Your short-term memory is going to keep a certain amount, a certain part of the image. The more you read, what happened? This memory is going to get bigger and it's going to be improved. So you read 3, 4, 5 pages and you find yourself you have memorized all what you have read, like the details. Let's say for example you give your learners, this is what we do for my students. I give them like a description of a person in 3 pages, description of person in 3 pages, and they start reading the page. It's like about the person, his life, his personal, his everything. And I stop at one of the, and I stop and said, "Do you remember what color his eyes, for example, or her eyes, or something like this?" And I see what's their capacity. If we have, this is the trick, by the way, when you read using both the mechanical side and the cognitive side, and you build like an image of the person, you will not forget. You will have a very good working memory. This is something, sadly, we never focus on when it comes to teaching our young learners, especially when it comes to young learners. As I told you, I'm a university teacher and I deal with students who are 18 years old. When it comes to psychology, 18 years old, you're really old. Like, it's too late to fix few problems. We need young learners with they have fresh minds, and we need to teach them these tricks. And what makes things really worse is our culture. When you talk to people abroad, some cultures, they tell you, okay, when I was young, my mom used to read stories for me, or when I was young, I was reading short stories, novels, etc. I mean, you can go and ask now, ask your students and tell them, okay, do you read stories? They will most definitely they will tell you no. And if you ask them, have you ever been like someone read story for you? They will tell you also no. So the culture of reading doesn't exist. Plus, we don't read books now. We newspapers. So this is really bad. So what we read often is like some kind of flashcards like this in social media, and it's supposed to be very one or two, 3 words maximum. This is what we do because these days we simply cannot focus. So the problem of cultural and contextual knowledge when it comes to reading by itself, because the problem we don't read means that we are not open, our minds simply are really closed. We don't have this contextual knowledge about what's happening. And this is further perplexed when it comes uh, to matters that are related to language, to culture. Sometimes you can read a sentence and you won't understand anything from that sentence because simply you don't belong to the culture that that from the culture that's really the source of that sentence. You simply will have an issue with that. And then the point that I want to talk about and I have to stress a lot when it comes to reading is motivation and engagement. E- this is what I do the most as a teacher. I don't like simply to teach them reading. I like to motivate them and really help them to be engaged in reading. You know, one of the tricks I do to teach reading, and many students I find it like super weird. I tell them, hey, we are going to make a play. They say play, come on, play, how come play is a play is related to reading? I say, okay, we are going to make a play, but instead of you come to the stage and you start acting like this, no, I need you to bring the script with you and read from the script directly. Okay, they say, oh, okay, this is easy, so I'm going to read and at the same time I'm going to perform. I said, okay, it's okay. You know what happened usually? Most of the time they drop the script and they start really memorizing the script and at the same time helping them to achieve better reading. And you will ask me why a play? Because when you act, you need to kind of reveal some emotion. So it's not just reading, but reading plus emotion. What happens by this? So you have read, you have activated all the cognitive processes, and you have in the same time, this helps also in your speaking skill. Now, and this is what I do tell my students: when you write a word or something written, that's dead language. That is a dead language. It's only when you read it, it comes alive. I give them usually a very simple example, and maybe it's going to help you. I write to my student two sentences: I love you and I hate you. I write these two sentences. And then I tell them, can you read it? And say, okay, I love you, I hate you. Do you think it has a meaning? They tell me, yes, it has a meaning. Okay. Does that meaning touch that does that meaning touch you? They say, not really. Yeah, but imagine that day you have a problem or some an issue with your friend and you have said that word, I hate you, and you will read it, or maybe that person sent you a message on your phone and you read it. What happened usually? And maybe you can reflect on yourself. Sometimes when you read a message from your friend on your phone, you read it as if that person is reading it for you. It's all always, and it happens a lot, that even your mind is going to pick a voice for that message, by the way. This what happens exactly, that's your mind is really engaged in reading that sentence because it touches you. And this is exactly the aim behind behind this meeting. What I want to tell you: if we cannot teach our learners to really touch, feel what they are reading, we are all focusing on what we call the mechanical aspect of it. And sadly, so many teachers, I see this problem when they have this course of reading. They teach them approaches of reading, ways of reading, benefits of reading, but hey, do they know how to read? I mean, we waste our time teaching them strategies, but they don't know how to read to begin with. And this is very important to tackle this issue. We have to talk about it. We have to work in collaboration with psychologists to amend this issue. So, of course, when it comes to this, motivation and engagement is something that we have to care about. The next idea, and this is what talks about, I wanted to talk about, is called the neurological and psychological factors. The more you read, the more your brain is going to be activated, because the more you read, the more vocabulary you are going to mobilize, the more, that's what you call the demanding memory, that memory, that working memory that I talked about, that is going to expand. Because it's like sports. You are training first, because when you read out loud, you train your mouth, because this is something I'm going to talk about also. You train the muscles of your mouth. This is important. And plus, you train your mind to be very fast, because what happened in reading, and a good reading, you look at the word, that's your eyes is going to be fixed on one word. Then your eyes is going also to look at the next word, maybe the next word, maybe the third word, maybe the fourth word after. And you try to guess how to pronounce it, the sounds, the meaning, and everything. And in the same time, what happened also, you are building an image. And in the same time, you are critically analyzing the whole thing you are reading. This happens so quickly and so fast. Now, if you are not trained enough, you will have issues. The first issue, and I want to ask you here, maybe just think about it quickly. Most of us, when we read, or when we see something and read it like silently, it's so easy. The moment you do it out loud, it's so difficult. This is why sometimes when you see someone reading something, for you, it seems so easy, yet the person is having a problem. Why is that? The issue first is that when you try to read out loud, you have at least two processes happening. You have the physical side of it. This is your mouth, you want to speak. And there is the brain. The problem, your apparatus here is so slow than your mind. Your mind is so fast. And when they are out of sync, issues usually start to happen. So when you are a good reader, what's going to happen is like these two are going to come in sync, and of course, things are going to be much, much better. So this is also important. So we talked about neurological development. And of course, and this is the problem that we really suffer from today, which is called attention related. Our attentions today is like we have a problem with attention. It's everything is designed so we cannot focus. Everything. We see reels 30-second, we see short videos. I don't know. I mean, the last time I tried to watch a movie, I find myself like grabbing my phones. And in the past, I used to watch a movie for 2 hours or reading a book like 1 hour, and I don't do anything. Now, no, it's not the case. If I try to open a book, all of a sudden I remember I have to text someone. I have to remember that I have to watch something. And all of a sudden I find myself distracted. And this is like a really big issue. And then maybe something, this is something really related to public speaking, the anxiety and stress. Most of the time when we try to read something, we have this anxiety and stress, and all of a sudden, because the moment you feel stressed, you are going to stop the cognitive process. Your mind is going to be super slow, is going to be sluggish, and then that's going to be reflected on your reading. Is going to be extremely bad. Okay, now let's talk about, if we do everything to help our learners, what's the benefits? What can we see? The first benefit, and this is what I do advise, really my piece of advice for everyone who's in charge or who can control things, we need to teach reading for our young learners. For adult learners, it's too late. I'm really sad to say this, but it's too late. We need, like, when we teach young learners, especially at the age of 4, 5, why not even 3, this is going to help them strengthen their neural connection. Reading is so important. Reading is the remedy for what social media is doing. Social media is destroying everything in our minds, especially these neural connections, because it allows, not allows, it facilitates how we acquire knowledge. It's so easy. You have a video, short video. It's no, in the past it used to be a bit difficult. You need to read it, you need to understand it, you need to analyze it. No, it's not happening. So our language is destroyed, and our process, the mind, these neural connections in the same time are also being destroyed. So this is something that we really need to start working on. Yeah, okay. And yeah, someone has raised his hand. Okay, so if
No, I don't think so. No.
oh, okay, so I move to the second idea, with the benefit is going to happen, is enhancing cognitive functions. You see, if we read, as we said, this is going to strengthen our neural connection, and this is, of course, is going to expand our attention, reasoning, problem solving, and also our ability to process complex information. This is so important. If all these are met, of course, the next thing is we will have a really good analytical thinking, and also we will have comprehension abilities. These are really important. We cannot have these if our minds are not working. So it's like everything has to work in tandem if we want to reach this. These days, everyone is talking about critical thinking, problem solving. Hey, if you want critical thinking and problem solving, you have to be a very good listener, and you have to be a very good reader. You have to be able to read an argument with someone. Most of the time, that person is going to stop you even before you have finished your talk. And at the same time, try to give your learner something to read. They will read the first two sentences and they quickly jump into conclusion. This is not supposed to be the case. To have this analytical thinking and critical thinking, comprehension abilities, what you need really, you need to read. You need to read slowly, really slowly. You have to understand every word, because every word can have the potential of changing the entire argument. It's not the word, maybe just one letter, maybe just a tense, maybe in the final ed you miss, it can change everything. Try your learners these days. days you learn as many times they will forget even to look at not reading because simply they didn't pay attention. Yes, if we can really achieve this, what comes next is logic. Because if we can help our learners really to think carefully, this is going to help them really obtain a good logic. I want to start with an example. Our learners, now simply everything, especially in coding, because if you don't read maybe one semicolon, that can lead to serious problem. And why? Simply I really blame this kind of social media, our attention and everything concerning that. And of course, since we are talking about learning a language, reading and emphasizing reading skills is going to help improve our vocabulary and of course language skill. This is something, as I started in the beginning, I said when you read a sentence, you don't read for the meaning. No, this is superficial. We read more because the meaning, grammar is part of the meaning. A sentence in the present is not like a sentence in the past. A sentence in the present continuous is not like a sentence in the present perfect. These choices might seem trivial for you, like why have you used the present simple or why the present perfect, but they are not. If we go deeper in language, every choice has some kind of consequences. Why have you chosen the present one? Why not the present perfect? These we have to go back and teach our learners these details because today everyone will tell you, no, it's just about communication, it's just about fluency. No, this is wrong. It should be about fluency and accuracy both, and we should not compromise. We should not say it's fluency is more important because this is the major problem. It's actually one of the issues, especially one of the negative consequences of really focusing just on fluency. And of course, since we talked about memory, the idea of memory itself, it can be boosted by reading. If we allow our learners to take their time and read and really use books, this is supposed also to help them boost their memory. I don't know if you are familiar with the trend today in Europe. Been last month I was really reading and seeing YouTube videos about it, like their schools are reversing the policy, and the policy just 10 years ago was like the integration of technology. Today the policy is quite the opposite, is removing technology. They just realized that their learners are not really focusing enough, and they said, okay, we need our learners to go back to books and they have to read books again because that is going to boost their memories. This is something so it's really imperative. The next idea is one of the benefits of reading is we have to encourage social understanding. Social understanding, yes, we can see videos, we can understand things about society, but nothing is more important than reading. Reading is, how can I say it? If you read a novel, an author is going to take his or her time explaining things in detail. This is something you don't find in a video, especially today. In a video, it's like 30 seconds. You take it, you learn something from it, or you don't. But this is something that's also destroying us. We need to read. We need to be open to other cultures. We understand our culture. This is also important. The next idea, maybe this is really beneficial for you. You see, reading can also reduce stress. You tell me how. We find ourselves today in today's world. We all have problems. We have issues all the day. We are running after some, I don't know, something to fix. Try again to go to that corner in your place and take a book and start reading and about something. You know, when you read, it's just your mind, your eyes reading, analyzing, critically trying to build an image about what you're reading. So, as if you will for a moment forget. And here I will kind of give you something that I learned from a psychologist. Uh, this psychologist told me that if you want to stop thinking about, let's say you have a problem with overthinking, start reading something. The moment you read, your mind is going to be on pause. It's not going to think about other aspects. It's just what you are reading because the mind is going to be so occupied. Because as I told you, reading is a very demanding skill. This is something that we are not really teaching our learners. This is, we need to do so. And of course, you see, when I told you about building that image, let's say, for example, you're reading a novel, and in the novel, you read, let's say, for example, in a far planet. Okay, it's a planet. This is a trick I use to our learners. When I tell them, for example, when you read the story and you find it like this, in a far land, I tell them, can you tell me what are you thinking about? They start what they start to do, they start recalling images, maybe from a movie, maybe from something, maybe a familiar place. This is going to boost what? Their imagination and creativity. So if I say, for example, in a far land there was a knight, a handsome knight, a beautiful princess, what you do, you start building that image. This is really something that is making your mind work. And this is so imperative. And this is something missing from our classes. What we do the most, we go to our learners, we give them some lessons, no time to be creative. I always say we really need to find time for such kind of activities. Okay. Um, do you think that reading, I'll try to read this question, I like it. Do you think that reading a book from, has a different impact from a phone or a tablet, for example? Not really. In this regard, if you are using the medium like the phone or the book or the phone, as long as it's reading and you are not distracted by the device itself. Because the problem is sometimes the device itself can be a distraction. But as long as it is reading and you can focus on it, that's important. There is one big difference still between a physical book and a device. What is this? You see, when you use a book and you read, usually when you want to remember something that you have read, you kind of, your mind is going to remember something about the location. Maybe it is on the right, down at the right. Maybe it was in the middle of the book. This is something can really help you in remembering, recalling what you have read. This is something cannot happen in a phone because in a phone, you don't have a physical location of the word because you're scrolling up and down. This is, yes, this is a major problem. And this is maybe the big advantage of books because your mind is going to associate the place of the word, the location of the word, and the meaning. And this is why I say, okay, I read that word. And I think I read it. And you open the book directly. It's like your mind is going to tell you it's exactly its place, and you find it. This cannot happen with the phone, and it's actually is a really downfall of the phone. And this is really a huge problem. Now let's go to one of the major benefits of reading, and something that we do not talk about. Reading can really protect your mind. It can help you against cognitive decline. You see, most studies today about the decline of our cognitive processes are really not up to date. We don't know what's going to happen to us after 10 years. I can tell you what's happening to me now. I don't remember. I'm always stressed. This is simply because of social media. It's like load of information and I don't have to use my mind. But if we start and stop and try to read, what's going to is going to at least protect our cognitive mind, our mind, because simply why? What we are doing, we are activated it. So this is also very important. Now, as I said, if we really focus now on reading, like we go and invest, especially when it comes to young learners, what we are going to get first, we really are going to develop. So this is kind of a recall what I said. We are going to develop their phonetic and phonemic awareness. This is the first thing. So we start with the sound. We are going to help them really pronounce accurately. This is one. After the pronunciation, we have phonology. They are going to understand the sound, the meaning of the sound. We are going to enhance their vocabulary. We are going to enhance also their reading fluency. We are also going to enhance their grammar, because if you know words and you know how words are connected and you can read them carefully, this is going to boost your grammar. And of course, this is also going to boost your comprehension. This is the most important. And of course, this is going to help you not only to be a better reader, but as we said, this is going to extend to critical thinking and problem solving, because these are really related to reading. Now, there is someone tells me that usually, how can I really be a good reader? I say I usually start with try to find something you really like to read, something that is really find yourself engaged, either a story or something that is or an article about something that really attracts you. And in the same time, reading is so difficult, by the way. Be you especially if you have like a really long life of bad routine and you want to start reading, this is going to be so difficult. So you take it very slowly. Let's say, for example, you read one page, then the second two pages. You should not rush it. You should never rush it. And this is why, sadly, I say it's too late, maybe, for adults to learn reading. We need to invest in our young learners from age of 3, 4, 5. We need to start there. Yes, we don't have the culture of doing that, but we try to kind of start implementing, start kind of planting the seed of this culture. It takes years, but change is a change. And now, from what I've seen, especially trends in Europe, people are really starting to get scared from the social media. People, we have seen lately in Australia that controversial law concerning prohibiting the use of smartphones under 16. I think 16 or 14. I don't remember. That might seem like a really extreme measure, but trust me, something that I see that is, yes, can be beneficial. Yeah, age below 14, why students they need the 16. So yeah, so why they need a phone, and this can be really maybe helpful for their life future. So this is the end of what I have prepared. I hope you really like it. I hope you have benefited from what I said. And of course, we can ask, we can talk about it and debate or like this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boukhshba. Just a remark, everybody was amazed by your accent, and
Thanks.
these are Algerians, by the way.
I bet. Great.
We are proud.
Thanks.
Okay, if anyone wants to ask Dr. Boukhshba anything or interact with Mr. Boukhshba, you are free to do so. Just raise your hands and I will give you the word one by one. يعني إذا أي أحد يريد التفاعل مع الأستاذ بوخشبة فقط ارفعوا أيديكم وأعطيكم الكلمة شخص يعني واحد بواحد. نبدأ بالأستاذة شيماء ثامر. شيماء just
نعم،
activate your
السلام
mic.
عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
سلام.
صوتي واضح؟
ما شاء
واضح
الله
جدا.
واضح.
تفضلي أستاذ.
Hello, doctor. Just want
Hi.
to thank you so much. By the way, I'm one of your students. We are so proud of you, and thank you so
Thanks.
much for this impressive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you شيماء. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, coach. ربي يحفظكم على هذه المبادرة طيبة.
Thanks.
شكرا.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you are most welcome. We are trying our best to like bring a positive impact on this society, whether it is Algerian society or Arab society. So إن شاء الله ربي يوفقنا. هذا ما كان.
إن شاء الله.
Miss Wafa Blabiot, yes.
Hello, this is actually her husband. Uh,
Okay, Ahmed. Yeah, hello.
Hi, I hope everybody's doing okay.
Thanks.
I loved every single word and every single explanation that you have presented, and how clear it was and how smooth it was, especially since it's related to psychology, which I'm a big fan as a marketer. I agree with everything that you have said when it comes to social media ruining everything about loving reading and modifying the attention span, where we easily get distracted and we easily escape from what's, let's say, between quote unquote not interesting enough. I want to ask two questions that are interlinked, but before that, I just want to know, out of curiosity, which is off topic, were you referencing in one of your examples? You said a far land and there's a princess. Were you by any chance referencing Star Wars, like a galaxy far, far away in Princess Leia?
Yeah, baby. Yeah, because I do love. I'm really big fan of Star Wars.
I
Yeah,
knew it. I knew it. I'm a huge fan either.
great.
May the force be with you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the first question is, how do you recover from doom scrolling when it comes to social media? And the second question is, how do you actually start being interested in reading in a very careful way, and where you put all your mind to it? Like, as you can see, it's linked. Like, you recover from doom scrolling, and how do you start building that kind of interest in reading, and how do you escape, or how do you stop the new attention span from taking you away from reading or any long-term kind of consumption? Thank you.
Oh, no, okay. I will start with the second question because the second question also is going to answer the first question. The best solution, actually, I find it like I did find it, but it was by chance. I have a friend who likes stories, but he likes stories like he likes to you read stories for him. So one day I said, okay, I do love reading, so but not that much. And I had the book of Arabian Night, and I started reading it. And I was amazed by the stories in the Arabian Nights, and I was reading it every day and every night. And we had like a gathering, and and I started reading. And it's first time when I was reading, it was difficult. It was really difficult, especially I was reading it in Arabic, and the way it was written and the vocabulary were difficult. But I kept reading, and it went like this for I think 1 month. All of a sudden, when I discovered this, like my reading skill has got way better. It's not only in Arabic, also Arabic plus English. So it has nothing to do with the specific language. It has to do with your mind, with the functions of the mind. And in the same time, I find myself away from the phone. So the moment I was doing something else, I had no time for the phone. And the issue with phones, we think we need them, but the problem usually we don't. It's like most of the time we don't need them. It's like just we are doing nothing and scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. And trust me, I still have it these days. I still find myself sometimes when I wake at night and I scroll, I scroll. I say, okay, I have to do something else. For me, it's either reading or watching a movie or playing a game, but I do hate to scroll. I hope this is helpful a bit.
This is, thank you so much. I'm
Welcome.
personally a gamer, and I actually do that to escape the phone. I play
Yeah.
like a lot of games, I watch movies. But I think you're right. It helps sometimes, but not all the time. But it's like a long
Yeah.
term work, and it should do the work. Thanks a lot.
Exactly. Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you for both of you, Imad and Dr. Hisham, for that's like interesting conversation. Mr. Ali or Dr. Ali, yeah.
Thank you, Siham. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Hisham for the
Thanks.
nice and useful and very presentable lecture he has given. Then I would like to thank تطوير نفسك group and admin who has bring such expert and young Arabic man to us to give us these very actually useful and nice lecture. Then I have one question to Dr. Hisham. Actually, you have directed all of your speech to the young people, but what about us who are actually I am above 50 and I am still trying to improve my language, my even my personality, my thought. So what about us? Is there any chance for us or not?
No, there